Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode at LoLa AI. So today we have a bit of a treat. We've got Alessandro from Alessandro Caruso Architects and Interiors, which I tried again and again to make sure I get it right before we start, full disclosure. And for short, it's ACA. And it's a consultancy, it's an architecture consultancy focused on helping organizations design, implement, and scale their solution, their buildings, their design buildings to improve the quality of life. And within that, they use a lot of AI as well. And I'm sure Alessandro is going to tell us a lot about the process in a bit, because there's a breadth of experience and different projects that they've been working with. I had a meeting with him in December, just a quick 15-minute call to prepare for this call here. And I could see people running around in the background, just going crazy for the end of the year. And the start of this year is no different, I'm sure. Alessandro, how are you today?
Very well. Thank you very much, Roger. And thanks for having me on your podcast.
Oh, thank you for taking time to do it, because I know you've got a busy schedule. So Alessandro, like we were discussing before, what made you start this company in the first place? When did you start, and what was the reason for you getting into this type of architecture business?
Right. Thank you for the question. So my involvement in healing architecture comes from a personal experience. I had a motorbike accident back in 1994.
I knew you were a cool guy. I knew it.
And that was the catalyst really for the focus of the company. It was there that the mission to improve people's life came through. It was the company was founded in 2014, and it was designed to be a strategic and mobile and research-driven studio, if you like. We at the time we were a small consultancy. We were focusing on diagnosing, framing, and elevating projects into genuinely healing environments. We particularly wanted them to be inclusive, and we wanted them to be lowering the nervous system as well, because everything starts from there. So that was one of our focus, and all of this without really neglecting the necessary meeting of any regulatory requirements. I believe that this is still our focus today, despite we are now on the 13th year.
Congratulations. I was going to ask, when you say healing and improving the quality of life, obviously with your specific circumstances, it was around having the ergonomic effect while still being a high quality architectural design and having a space where it helps you heal. But could that healing expand into more than just health, like mental health, or even a relationship health between the people, partners that are living within that space or working within that space?
Absolutely. It's one of the misconceptions that we live nowadays, that when you talk about healing, you're thinking about necessarily a healthcare environment. In truth, healing starts at home and ends perhaps in a hospital. But there is all the various shades of influence that there is on ourselves is in every of these environments. So at home, we all like to have a home that is comfortable, and we all love the comforts of our home, and that is what gives us the well-being to start with. And then when we move on to work, it is exactly the same thing. We spend most of the time at work, and that is another space that we want to make sure that we own, and that we have what surrounds us is something that supports us in every day. And education is another area that is exactly the same area, where children at every stage, from the young children stage to in the youth, we need to make sure that the environment is supportive for our well-being, so that we can be there present to learn. and to finish off in an healthcare environment, which in our experience, we have experience of mental health care environments, but also dementia care environments, and ultimately acute care environments. And at every single one of each of these developments, there is a different nuance that is important to consider, if you like.
Okay, that's very interesting. So obviously you don't just focus on residential design. So what kind of industries or what kind of projects do you tend to work on, or what do you prefer working on as well?
Well, the main focus remain on healthcare related development. Shall we say that around about 70% to 75% of our work tend to be healthcare related, and that is both for the NHS and the private healthcare operator or charitable organizations. And that is because we feel that those is where we know we can have a considerable impact on the people's well-being. Then we do equally with a similar attention education. They are social spaces that is where everything starts. So we tend to believe that if we start with that, with those environments, is where we can have the future of generations being catered for, with the message that healing is for everyone. And then we have also the commercial sector, that is the one that we do a little bit less, but still we have an impact. The one where we do the least is probably residential, if you like, and mainly because residential tend to be quite subjective, and the care in that environment tend to be very personalized, and sometimes we want to really cater for that ourselves. So unless there are special needs, that is the one that we do the least.
Okay, that's very interesting, because if you think about what an architectural design project or development could be, when it comes to healthcare, the way you're describing it now, it sounds like it's got the largest number of requirements to be created, because you need to think about the functionality of the space. You need to think about the materials that are going to be used so that they can be clean and they can be sterile and they can be for purpose. But then at the same time, you need to think about the design in the sense of it being pleasing, so that mentally people in that space can start feeling a certain way. So it's almost like you're layering all these different aspects into your design. How does that work? Is it a single person doing it? Is it a team? Is it a process? How do you do it?
It's a team effort. Any of our projects are a team effort, and we tend to be fulfilling a role as mediator and interpreter of what the vision of our clients is, and so we tend to use questioning, and really tend to highlight if there are any blind spots that could have been considered based on our experience, and then go through a loop of feedback when the projects are finished, to see whether there is any lesson learned that we should have considered for the next project. Most of our clients tend to be long-standing clients, and they are which comes with repeated clients. And like you very much say, the start of the projects starts when you first approach the building. So our buildings needs to be already convey a welcoming feel, and dissipate any anxiety as you see the building. And then as you enter the building, that communication continue with the colors, the lights, the proportion of different type of materials that we use, and not to mention the ventilation requirements or the sustainability requirements. And so all of these has got an element of complexity that on your own you could never address all by yourself. So we are fortunately always surrounded by a very wide team, which all comes with their own specialism, and through that specialism we can investigate every detail of the project.
That is very interesting, because it almost sounds like you don't just design a building in terms of how it looks or how it will visually look in a 3D space, but how it functions and how it makes people feel and how it all goes. It's like you don't just do one layer, you go layer of a layer of a layer, and they need to interlock with each other. Otherwise, you have a disconnect of functionality and design. And to do that consistently for a company or an organization as large as, let's say, the NHS, and do it consistently enough so that you can get future projects as well, whilst keeping everything in budget. I mean, it's like you start throwing your pins in the air, and then more pins appear whilst you're throwing them up. It's juggling to the next level, isn't it?
Well, it is very much a process of chasing a rabbit hole. You open one area, and you will find another area that needs to be discussed in several details more. That's why we call it a holistic approach, because you could not really neglect any part of it, because what we tend to feel that we don't design buildings, but we design the experience of the building. And designing the experience of the building, you need to really feel quite sympathetic with it, and have an empathy for the people that are going to live the building, and be able to walk in the shoes of the people that will use the building, whether the building is used by patients, by members of staff, or by management. It really doesn't matter. What matters is being able to enter into the understanding of those different perspectives that will make a building successful. I think it's the only element that we feel makes an award-winning project. So not because it looks great, but because it has got a fantastic collaboration behind the scene.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the differences I see between the discussion we're having today and other guests that I've had. So obviously the podcast is around creatives, and I've had creatives in the digital sector appearing quite a lot, especially when it comes to game development or VR design and creating 3D spaces, which is very related to the design of the building. But the projects that you're talking about now is where imagination and creativity meet real life practicality, and when the two mix, then you get a building like you said, it's not just nice to see, it's functional for the purpose that it was designed for, and that is a different level altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. And that purpose comes when you are able to communicate every single part of the projects in more details. And it's funny that you're mentioning VR. It's one of the tools that we have implemented early stages in the life of the practice, because we felt that understanding the perspective of the building that is going to be built needed far more communication tools than simply having plans, elevation, sections that some of us may be used to content with in our day life, but some other people, when sometimes we talk to teachers or sometimes we talk to nurses, they are not necessarily used to read buildings in plans and sections, and something like VR has been instrumental to make that communication as plain as you can possibly imagine. You are very much in this sector, so you will know how the fantastic steps that this industry has taken for the game industry. But this has been translated on what we do very well, and we have adopted it early stages as a prototype. Early days prototype, they needed to be realistic prototype, were done with the cardboard boxes, which may convey an idea of the space, but do not necessarily convey the whole experience of the space.
Yeah.
The VR gives us exactly that.
Okay, that's very interesting. So what would your approach be? I know it's early stage and you're only in a prototype stage currently with the VR, and I'm sure you're able to use it within the team. But then when it comes to bringing someone from outside the team to demonstrate to them that 3D space into VR, would you be sending them something, or would you be bringing them into a space in your office and then basically walking them around in a virtual space? What's the approach that you're taking?
Well, we have done it both ways. So until it depends on the scale of the team that is involved. Sometimes the scheme that requires few decision makers, and they are generally invited in the office and able to wear the VR sets and able to walk the space within the space that we have within the office. And that is extremely successful, is the most realistic way. But recently, for example, we completed a community diagnostic center not far from us in Scunthorpe. Okay. And it was one of the first diagnostic centers that was commissioned in the country. The program was so complex that needed to integrate members from X-ray, from MRI, CT scan, all different departments, and all of them wanted to have a say, whilst others were in the room. So in that case, what we done is create a team meetings where everyone was able to walk in, and we were able to walk the building using the VR technology, but as showing on screen each of the areas. So if anyone wanted to see what was the consultant room that they would have used, we could have walked them to that space from the reception. Or if they wanted to see where the MRI was in relation to the reception, and the patient, the type of route the patient would have adopted, the type of color coding that was associated with that, they would have been able to experience that. And that has enabled the opportunity to, for example, refine the color strategy or the positioning of the equipment, because sometimes one thing is discussing it with a clinician, and another thing is also discussing it with the manufacturer. And so because now the industry is so well tuned in the use of BIM, building information modeling technology, some of the manufacturer of the equipment that gets installed in some of our building is already modeled in 3D. So we are able to integrate the exact model of the machine that they are going to operate, and letting them see the relationship with the space around, and how the patient or the staff would be able to operate, what they would be able to see from the window, for example, from the control room. So it becomes a very integrative way of communication.
Yes, that does sound amazing, and it triggers your imagination now of all the new possibilities of how you can interact with your customer. One of our other guests that we had, they were not an architect, they were an architect animator. So what they did, they would pick up this 3D design and then create nice lighting, etc., and then provide some 3D demos, if you will, in video form that could be posted on website and sent around on email communications, etc. Now this does exactly the same, but now you actually have an interactive approach with it as well. It's not just looking at a 3D model, you can interact with the model, you can stand in specific places, you can see the functionality of the space for a person, for a guest, for a patient, regardless of who they are, what they're doing there. You can put them in the virtual space and test it. And with that testing, you find all the insights that you would have otherwise missed until the creation of the project itself. So it's such a strong tool, isn't it?
Oh, it is fantastic. I think that has revolutionized the way we communicate projects. One thing that we have considered as well is that as with so many advantages for people like ourselves that are well open to the idea of using tools like this one, we have to consider also some of the challenges that that may be presented for people that are not at ease with wearing VR sets. And sometimes also we have to consider from when we started over 10 years ago to nowadays, wearing a Google set and walking through a building, the experience is so different. Early days, I remember that you would take the Google set out and you feel spaced out for a while because the framing speed was a little bit challenging. But nowadays, you can take the Google set for people like us that would not have any problem. Sometimes we also consider whether there are people that may have some sensory perception impairment that we would consider. And in some cases, if we need to consider, for example, whether there is a sight impairment, we are able to slide in some filters to really show what the space would look like if you were to suffer with maculopathy, or for example, if you which is a great
it gives you the capability to change the environment based on the use cases that you're talking about now.
Yeah,
very nice, very nice. So where does this take you into the future? Obviously you're implementing it now, you're seeing the capabilities. What are your expectations of how technology is going to change the way you work in the next 5 years or 10 years? And what are the good things that are coming out about it, and what are the bad things that you see, like dangers for your industry?
Well, looking at the positive, we always are interested in understanding how the automation can be integrated so that because some of the automations that we have used through the building information methodology is refining more and more the level of details, so that rather than imagining what something would look like, we can actually have a real look. So that, but now we are looking at how can we automate some of the processes associated to, say, the information behind the layer behind the 3D visualization, so that we can fine tune the actual appearance, and that we can focus on that. So I think that would be a good element for us, and we want to see really how AI can integrate in that building information methodology, whether there is something that can help us. We are continuously testing. Since a couple of years ago, we have established an AI Academy as part of our way of working, where we continuously test different type of AI software that and now we can integrate it in what we do, and we are exploring how well AI responds to our commands, if you like, and how much AI sometimes want to make you do what they like to do.
Yeah,
which is where the challenge I see at the moment is refining that dialogue, if you like. Yesterday, we were speaking with a colleague of mine. We were saying it's interesting how the implementation of AI is forcing us to be even more clear in how we input the instruction to the AI software, and because it's a good process of being, because it makes you think. We all can be a little bit more. A little bit too informal sometimes with the instructions. So the clearer the instruction that we give to the AI, the better is the response, and that is the process that we are going through. So the future for us is more about very much like I compare it to many years ago when the CAD came to life. There was a sense of concern. Oh, this will take our jobs away from our hands. And then I can tell you that I still start any project with a sketch, and we use the tools to enhance it to a level that now, within a few days, we have a very realistic visual effect of what we are going to achieve. Probably the challenge will be more how we integrate it and how that collaboration works. No different than any collaboration with any of the team members, if you like.
Yes.
So that's my perspective at the moment.
You like to be optimistic about it then?
Oh, definitely. I think that if you have a positive outlook, you find always a way of working with either people or tools. It's all about finding the strength and how we integrate the strength as part of the work that we are trying to achieve. If I feel that our vision has been always the key focus, and our mission has always been the key focus, I don't think that can change if the tools that we are going to use can be integrated with that. So AI for us offer the biggest opportunities of the future.
Yes, it's almost like a fluid automation layer. It's not a case of you designing an automation tool that does one specific thing. It's about finding a tool that can automate multiple processes without needing to change the tool every time. That's the fluidity that it provides, but it needs to get better. It needs to be closer to the result a human would make for the same instruction. And then once we get to that point, then you can automate it by accelerating your work without having to go through the process, the medial process of doing the digital work before you can get to that point.
Absolutely. I found that couple of years ago, I wrote a book, and when I was writing this book, I started exploring, because AI first came up as the latest thing. I wanted to see what AI was going to do. I thought that at the time AI was a little bit doing what the AI wanted to write, and I didn't particularly like it. But what I found, and I didn't end up using AI in that occasion, but at the same time I found that I was spending a lot of time in researching and then writing after.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the process of writing another book, and I found that using AI to do research has expedited exponentially the work that I wanted to do, because it has become a way of questioning my knowledge, questioning the responses that AI give me, and challenging the responses that AI give me as well. There was a particular instance recently in which AI gave me a response, and I said, that is not according to my understanding. And I said that to AI. And AI said, you're right, that wasn't the way. And it gave me the rectified version. So sometimes using that critical friend approach that's also with AI can be very important, because is one of the things that we say, any of these software have got the potential to change the way we work, the way we live exponentially. But it's still up to us to understand how well we can implement it to do what we want them to do. At the end of the day, they are still tools for me. They are not tools to be replacing what our intelligence can do, if you like.
They're there to support, to use them in the right way, to provide the right information and the right value to the work that you do. Actually, one of the points that you were making there about how it came up with a wrong answer and then you challenged it, and it was like, actually, what you're saying is correct and I was wrong before. Nice catch. That's almost like a mechanism that I've seen appearing multiple times on AI, where it tries to please you. It tries to find an answer even if there's no real answer behind it. So they said that a way to combat that problem is by creating background prompts into your AI, giving it ways that it can respond, how how accurate it can be with its answers, how creative can it be with its answers, how positive it can be against you or not, etc. So you can play with all that. And I found recently a video of someone talking about this, and they gave a prompt which I used in my AI, and specifically it says all your answers should be factual, they should have no fluff, no niceties, straight to the point. Don't try and expand your answers to make them sound nice, just tell me exactly what I'm asking. And because I have an engineering and physics background, I want the answer. I don't want the, oh yes, good question. It's no, just leave that behind. Just tell me what I'm asking.
Yeah, I've done exactly the same with mine. It was something that I saw on one of the social media posts that I follow. That you made yourself. It maybe was one of yours, and I used that prompt to change the setting in my AI, because what I didn't like it was every question I would ask, it was a sugar-coated response that I would get. And at the time, I was asking specific question tests, really, whether I had a blind spot or not on a specific research I was doing. And that changed. And now it says, before when it answers, stays no sugarcoating, no direct response, honest. With also providing the font of for the research that I need to do, which was quite particularly important indeed.
Yeah, definitely. So it's like you said, it's using the tools in the right way where they're designed to be helpful, rather than replacing the work that a human does. It's an augmentation. It's an extra tool that you can now optimize your work, make it faster, more creative, bounce ideas off. I like to use it as a ping pong game sometimes, where I'm thinking about something. I'm like, what about this? How would this work? And it gives me some questions or answers or ideas. And I'm like, yeah, but those wouldn't work for these purposes. And then it comes up with something else. And it's like a ping pong game. And eventually you're like, yes, that is now something that I can accept, and it can help me in the work that I'm doing, rather than replace what I do.
Indeed, we found that also with the tools like creative tools that provide visuals effects, because sometimes there are some of these apps, there are a number of them, so I will not specifically quote ones exactly, but there is one particular. It gives 4 options of say you want to design a building, and you ask give me a building that looks like this, or I got this material, and it gives you that. And then you can refine the prompt all the time until you find that is an image. Actually, that's it started looking, or is not the project, but it gives you an overall effect. It makes you think, oh, maybe we could have a building that is looking like that. And is very much like any research that we would do that is in writing instead. And it creates the ping pong, and it's not something that just is comes out from the AI without any refinement, if you like.
Well, the whole point of technology since the dawn of time was to improve quality of life, give you another different way to do something easier, more efficient, more creatively, and give humans a way to reduce their workload as much as they need or want to. So it went from just survival to then going into making the quality of life better. And now we're inching into the do as much work as you're feeling like doing right now, so you can be more creative whilst leaving the menial things to automation and AI. So maybe that's the next step. The next step is allowing a creative person to do what they do best, which is be creative, be rational, and also be a bit mad in the decisions they make, and allow the tool behind them, an AI tool, let's say, to create and do the menial work to translate what they're saying into a digital form. And then from there, you can go to the next step. And that's how it works.
Yeah, I entirely agree. That is very much the approach that we are taking in our way of implementing it. Because we feel that if we do it that way, that speed is beneficial only to give us more time, more thinking time, to really see, actually, how can we refine
better result.
This part of the project or another part of the project, having done having done the overall approach.
Amazing. Thank you, Alessandro, for your time today. You've been amazing. And do you have any last words right before we close up to leave the audience with?
Well, I think that for me, the commitment to well-being and the human-centered design is the message I carry forward in anything that we do. And the books that I've been involved in authoring carry that message. So if there was any interest in developing further any of this information, we'll be happy to point in the direction of any of the writing that we do.
Amazing. I'll put your link onto the video when it's posted out, so people can visit, see all the projects you're working on, and possibly even get in contact to see if they can collaborate with you. Amazing.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Have a good day forward. Bye-bye.
And you. Bye.